Hey, I'm Kelvin Reed with Reed's Real Estate, the home of the Guaranteed Sale Program. I want to address the top 5 questions we've been receiving from our clients and the people from our community in regards to the COVID-19 virus. So we did our research. We gathered a lot of information from industry leaders and experts. So in this video, we're going to we're going to cover those questions that we've been asked and answer your top 5 questions by showing the research and the data that we collected. So, before we get started, I want you to know that we do understand the times that we're in, and we know how important it is for all of us to be protected during these times. So, we also know when you're buying or selling a home right now, safety is a major concern, in which is a huge factor for us all, basically. So that's why we have created our exclusive protection plan for both sellers and buyers during these times of hidden danger. For more information and details on how that go, if you or anyone you know is looking to make the move and just want to be protected during these times while you buying or selling a home, please visit our website. Go to reedsrealestate.net and click on COVID-19 Seller Protection Plan, and you can be able to get more information in regards to that. Also, click on Buyers COVID-19 Buyer Protection Plan to get more information about that as well. And within the seller protection plan, it covers a few things to make sure that we guarantee you safety, that we can sell your home virtually during this time. So there's no need to leave your home, no need for people to even be in your home. Everything is done virtually. Again, keeping your family safe while we sell your home. This is our major priority. And also just check out the buyers. If you want to reach out to us, you can definitely be able to reach out to us. You can go to buyers again, click on COVID-19, and that'll give you more information in regards to how a buyer protection plan works. God forbid if anything happens, we hope that it don't, but if you are and receive COVID, the virus during this time, we will actually guarantee we'll buy back your property, or we'll sell it for free if you buy any one of our listings. So we just want to make it totally risk-free for you guys to be able to work with us. And also, too, if you want to just call, feel free to reach out to us, 757-774-6069. Feel free to call us at any time, and you can come here and just check out some of our blogs and how the COVID-19 affected the Hampton Roads real estate market has been a really big hit. A lot of people looking at that information and calling and responding about that. That was just recently put out, and you come here and kind of check out some of the things that we actually do as well. So if there's anything that we can assist you with, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here for you during these times. All right, so let's get started. So the top 5 questions that we have received from our clients and the people in the community is: number 1, when is the economy going to recover? Number 2, are we going into a recession? 3, is this going to be like 2008? And what about all the job losses? What should we do during these times? So let's jump straight into it. So let's start off with, when is the economy going to recover? All right, when is the economy going to recover? What we're experiencing right now is basically, it's tough on everybody. Nobody is exempt from what we're going through. We all in this here together right now. And as a result of our economy, the economy has hit a pause button. Unlike it was back in 2008, where the economy felt more like a tornado had came through here back in 2008. I mean, for instance, buildings was ripped out, towns were completely destroyed. When that tornado, which is the 2008 economy, basically, when that tornado came through, it literally took years to rebuild the housing and the mortgage market. Today is different, so today is what we're going through right now. I like to say it's more like a snowstorm. You got about 4 to 5 feet of snow on the ground right now, and it's still snowing. But eventually the snow is going to stop. And after that, the snow then eventually is going to go away. When that happened, there's no need to rebuild anything like it was in 2008. And in fact, the buildings will still be all up. They'll still be intact. So what the industry experts is basically saying right now, we're not going to go back to the way that it was right away. So they're saying that we're going to recover, but not right away. So it will take some time, but it's not going to take us very long because basically we don't have to rebuild like it was in 2008. You know, this time around, it's like we're watching a movie. Basically, somebody hit the pause button. As soon as they hit the play button again, there's no reconstructing, there's no rebuilding like 2008. All we have to do is just get the people back to work. So there is a huge difference between those two. So again, the research has been done. You know, we got the forecast here from Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley. They all saying the same thing. We're in for a rough ride over the next 90 days and going into the second quarter of this year, but also in for a really, really nice ride up throughout the rest of the year. So as you can see the graph, every one of the major financial institutions that we have on this graph right now, they all agree and are saying exactly the same thing, that is, that's what's going to happen. So, so we're going to have to basically what we call a V-type recovery, a strong down and a strong up. It's going to be similar to as if let's say if you was to take a tennis ball, take that tennis ball and you throw it to the ground as hard as you can and it bounce right back up. So that's similar as a demonstration of how a V-type recovery will be, and everyone is agreeing to that, and that's really good news. As a matter of fact, John Burns Consulting has actually done some analysis up on this. This quote from his research team says, historically, analysis shows us that pandemics are usually V-shaped, sharp recessions that recover quickly enough to provide little damage to home prices. And some very cutting-edge search engine analysis by our information management team showed the current slowdown is playing out very similar thus far. So John Burns Consulting is a major consulting firm in the real estate industry. They have studied past pandemics, and they're basically saying that this too is going to be a V shape, and it's not going to impact housing prices, drastically. Harvard Business Review just put out a paper saying it's worth looking back at history to place the potential impact path of COVID-19 empirically. In fact, V-shapes monopolized the empirical landscapes of prior shocks, including epidemics such as SARS, the 1968 H3N2, the Hong Kong flu, the 1958 H2N2, the Asian flu, and the 1918 Spanish flu. So in each of these cases, whether it was a major pandemic, there was a V-shaped return in the economy. So that's comforting to know that in 4 cases of pandemic, we recovered quite nicely. So yeah, we're in for a rough ride going down based on the information that's at hand. We have to buckle up for the next 90 days and going into the second quarter. But after that, we can look forward to a nice ride up. So the next question is, are we going into a recession? Well, some industry experts say that we're already there. Some say we're already in one, but some also say that we're heading into one. So let's look at that a little further. So here's what we know. Here's what we know. Recession does not equal housing crisis. It does not equal housing crisis. As a matter of fact, Doug Bryan, CEO of Mind Property Management, stated that with the exception of 2 recessions, the Great Recession from 2008 to 2009 and the Gulf War recession from 1990 to 1991, no other recession has impacted the U.S. housing market, according to Freddie Mac Home Price Index data collected from 1975 to 2018. So they did the research. And they found out that recessions normally don't impact the housing market. That's good to know. So as you see this graph right here, it explains what we already know. In 2008, because of the housing and the market mortgage meltdown, it had a major impact on our economy. As you can see right here, prices fell about 20%. But just like the research done from Freddie Mac, this graph and research here is from CoreLogic, and they found the same exact thing. The 3 of the last 4 recessions did not have a negative impact on the housing market. As a matter of fact, only one did go down, and it was only about 2%. In the 3 other recessions, they actually went up fairly nice. So I think based on this information, we're in good shape. So here's another question. Third question says, is this going to be like 2008? Well, this is the big question everyone is asking, and it's on everybody's mind. Well, I kind of already answered that, but let's look a little deeper. Let's start with a quote from Mark Fleming. Mark Fleming is the chief economist at First American. He said, many still bear scars from the Great Recession and may expect the housing market to follow similar trajectory in response to the coronavirus outbreak. But there are distinct differences that indicate that the housing market may follow a much different path. While housing led the recession in 2008 and 2009, this time may be poised to bring us out of it. Man, that's really good news to hear that. So what do we know? Well, the industry expert team, the researchers, they went back and took a look at the housing crash of 2008 and the stock market correction and found some really good, interesting information. So when we look back to 2008, we can see that the S&P went through a rough correction of about 51%. And through that time in 2008 to 2009, home prices depreciated as well. You will also notice that over the 3-year period, accumulative depreciation was about just under 20%, right? And that's what we all remember, That's what the consumer, anybody who lived through this, remember that. That's what we remember. And yet when we start to take a look back at basically as what's happening today, based on what we already shared, this picture starts to look very different from 2008. So I want to share this quote with you from the chief economist, David Rosenberg. David Rosenberg said, what 911 has in common with what is happening today is that this shock has also generated fear, angst, and anxiety among the general public. People avoiding crowds then as they believe another terrorist attack was coming and are acting the same today, avoiding getting sick. The same parts of the economy are under pressure. Airlines, leisure, hospitality, restaurants, entertainment, consumer discretionary service, just in general. So what David is saying here is that the fear and anxiety then is very similar to what we're seeing today, basically, where people are afraid of getting sick. As a result, we are all quarantined right now. We're self-sheltering as I'm recording this right now. And as far as the economy, like I mentioned earlier, it has been put on pause. They hit the pause button, and everything has shut down. So when we take a look, when we take this same approach to the .com and 911 crash, we see a different picture here. We see an S&P correction during that same time was about 45% compared to 51%. But during the same time in 2001 and 2002, we actually see some home prices appreciating during that time. So again, a very different picture from 2008 than what we saw in 911. So this really forced me to kind of go a little deeper and so I can see exactly what is different today, or how does today's market compare to 2008. So I want to take a look at a couple of comparisons here. Start off with home prices appreciation. All right. So let's look back to 2008. The 6 years leading up to the housing crash, we had high appreciations then. And we look at the 6 years leading up to today, we see nowhere near where we were then during that time. Really, the highest year in the last 6 years does not equal to the lowest year in the 6 years leading up to the housing crash. And while prices are rising, what we do not have is a runaway appreciation that we see leading up to the housing crash. Very important, something to remember in this visual. Please, that's very important right there. Now let's talk about inventory. About 6 months of above 6 months of inventory equals a buyer's market. Below 6 months of inventory equals a seller's market. So entering into this year, the biggest challenge we was prepared for in the housing industry, and everybody already knew, was the inventory. You know, literally, it was not enough homes on the market for the number of buyers that we had that wanted to buy a home. So if we take a balanced market of 6 months and we look back to 2007, we know we were just over 8 months of supply of inventory that was on the market. That's leading us above 6 months of inventory, which equals a buyer's market. So today we're at 3.1 months supply of inventory on the market. We literally don't have an oversupply of homes on the market. For people that want to buy a home, it's very, very, very different than 2007. Oversupply of homes on the market led to the issues that went into 2008. The next thing we wanted to look at is home equities and how consumers have used their equity then versus now. This gives us a really good picture of 2008 and the 3 years leading up to 2008. You see on the left side, $824 billion was cashed out refinancing during that time. And we know on the right side, the 3 years leading up to today, that number is $232 billion, a fraction of what it was back then. Back then, basically, people was using their homes almost as an ATM machine, taking equity out of their home and doing all kinds of things. Who knows what they was doing with it? Basically thinking, in other words, this would never end. This is never going to end. So it did. And so on the other side, you know, this shows you how consumers are treating their equities today. It's very, very different than it was back in 2008. So what we also know is that 53.8% of all the homes in this country have at least 50% of equity. We know that because 37% of homes are owned free and clear. And then when you take the remaining balance or the remaining homes, 26.7% of those that actually, that leaves us with roughly 50% equity, which gives us this number of 53.8% of homes that actually have equity. Again, a very different position that we was in back in 2008. In 2008, when we had homeowners leveraging all of their equity, when their home, when their home lost values, they owe more up on the home than what it was worth, people started to walk away and foreclosures increased dramatically. You know, people are not walking away today. People are staying in their homes and they're treating their homes very, very differently than what we saw back in 2008, which is really great. So let's talk about unemployment. You know, what about all those job losses? You know, what about all of that that's going on? There's a lot of confusion out there about that right now. There's a lot of people thinking and saying, hey, the sky's falling. Let's talk about that. We do understand that 10 million people lost their jobs within the last 30 days. So that is never a good sign. That is never good for anybody to lose their job. And of course, not 10 million people. That's a lot of people. So as you look at this graph and see that, like compared to any other time in our economic history, going all the way back prior to 1970, we can see that this is just a very, very, very different time. You know, now let's take a look at those numbers a little deeper. The numbers you see with the red graph going up, that's from the U.S. Labor Department. You know, basically that's the number of unemployment claims within the last 30 days. So I'm going to show you another graph in a second. That's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, another governmental branch. They then take that information that they got from people collecting the unemployment insurance and gives us some analysis of that information. So this graph here It did not count all 10 million, but only the people who have collected unemployment on the week of March 14th. At this point in time, 701,000 people had already lost their jobs. Nowhere near the 10 million, but let's look at and see who these 701,000 people are. Who are they? So basically, you see, you got the construction workers, you have the healthcare office workers. They all got laid off. You got the child daycare workers. We want them to go back to work right now, Lord, please, and let's get them back to work. You have your temporary help service people, your retail people, your accommodation industry, hotel, housing, but a big chunk of that, roughly 60% of that, was food servicing and drinking, food service, bartenders, drinking places, servers. A lot of them lost their jobs. So basically, based on this information, the vast majority of these people was laid off, and they are going to come back to work. They are. And at that time, when they do come back to work, we'll go back to the V-type recovery. They all lost their jobs on the way down. And most of them is going to be able to get their jobs on the way back up. But it's going to be ugly. I'm telling you, the headlines is going to be ugly. In the next few months, it's not going to be pretty at all. So I'm looking at the Goldman Sachs unemployment rate projection. They're projecting that for this year, the height of the number is going to be about 15%. So what they're saying going forward, the unemployment rate is going to hit 15% this year. It'll be somewhere between 6 to 8% next year, down 5%, and then down to 4% over the next couple of years. So but it's still, that's good news still, because it's nowhere near what they originally thought it would be, and nowhere near what some people are saying, oh, this is going to be the Great Recession all over again. So let's take a look at this graph, going all the way back to 1989. And what we see is there is no direct relationship between unemployment rate and the number of houses sold. First, in the early 90s, the unemployment rate went up to 7.5%, and and home sales continued to increase even in that time. In the early 2000s, the unemployment rate went up to 6%, and guess what? Home sales continued to increase somewhat dramatically, right? Then the third one, when that's during the housing crash. That's when the housing crash happened. The unemployment rate shot up to 9.6%. And yes, sales prices fell, sales dropped. The housing and the mortgage meltdown had a major piece to do with that. But also during that time, banks was also shutting off their lending. They began to make it more difficult for people to get mortgage. So a lot changed then at that time. So now people say, okay, then, so Kelvin, what shall we do right now? Great. I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about it. Well, based on the research and the information the information we gathered that's at hand right now, I say if right now you have to absolutely sell your home, the time is now. The overall market is still healthy, and we are not going to see the skies falling movie we experienced back in 2008. Contact me, contact us, or someone who knows the market well enough to explain it to you. And definitely someone who specializes in actually getting homes sold and not just listing homes. Because there is a difference. You have people that just list homes for sale. You have people that specialize in getting homes sold, So ultimately, you want someone that could offer you a guaranteed protection plan as you see, as you sell or purchase a home during these times. So if you absolutely need your home sold, and not just to list your home for sale, but actually get it sold during these times, we're here to help. During these times, we guarantee to sell your home virtually or we'll buy it. Call us 757-774-6069 or visit reedsrealestate.net, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. And if you find this video helpful, please share, like, or subscribe so we can know if we need to continue to bring this type of information to you. I'm Kelvin Reed with Reed's Real Estate, the home of the Guaranteed Sale Program. Until next time, Stay safe and be blessed. Thank you.